Hi, this is Dave Belsky, your host of Talent Cannabis Sunset Session, brought to you by Flower Hire. I'm sitting with a very lovely guest, Whitney Beatty, the founder of Apothecary brands, as well as Josephine Billie's, an up-and-coming dispensary in South LA. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a lovely day here, right? Hard to be mad.
Absolutely. Well, every day that you spend this close to the beach is a lovely day.
Yeah. Doesn't it? I look up and I forget where I am sometimes, and I'm brought back to reality, and I feel fortunate to be here. So I told you earlier, you went to two of my favorite universities to produce human beings, from Michigan State University and Loyola Marymount, originally from Detroit. Like, you had an amazing sort of Hollywood career, senior vice president at Warner Brothers, running and producing different reality television shows, and all of a sudden you're like, there's a need for me in cannabis.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I mean, I worked in the entertainment industry for 15 years. I got my master's degree in film production at Loyola Marymount. Go Loyola.
Do they have a mascot, by the way?
I don't even know. I swear, I think we're like the Lions, but I've not been to one game. When it comes to sports, I'm a Michigan State girl all the way.
You're good.
Go Green.
You're good. Right.
But yeah, so. And I don't know what your familiarity is with the entertainment industry, but it's a tad bit stressful. It is a stressful place to work. I was working, you work 16-hour days. You got to get the job done, especially when you're trying to work your way up within that space.
Thankless.
Yeah, it is thankless. And what ended up happening was I had a situation where I was working on production. I was living off of free espressos from the machine and Red Bulls, because I was working crazy swing shifts. And I had a situation where my heart started beating out of my chest. It was skipping beats. It was painful. I couldn't breathe. I was sweating, cold sweats, and I thought I was going to die. But I thought the work was so important that I didn't want to disturb anyone. So I literally got up from my desk, didn't say anything to anyone, got in my car, drove to UCLA Medical Center, parked there, and told them that I was having a heart attack and I was dying. And they rushed me back.
Glad you're here still.
Exactly. I'm like, they rushed me back, and what they said was like, lady, you're not having a heart attack, you're having an anxiety attack. And I was like, wait, what? I am a type A personality. I do not have anxiety attacks. I don't have that kind of time. But what ended up happening was I started to figure out how am I going to deal with this. And, the doctors are giving me this and giving me that, and I don't like any of that. And the doctor said an offhand comment, hey, have you tried cannabis? And I was like, what? Because I grew up in Detroit in the 80s. Nancy Reagan told me to say no to drugs, and I didn't think that she would lie to me. I was wrong. So what that did was it made me do my research. Why do I feel this way about cannabis? And how can cannabis help me? And cannabis really changed the game for me. I was able to find a way to make to handle my anxiety. And it really made me more interested in the cannabis space. Why wasn't I, using it before? Why did I not feel like there was a place in cannabis for me? And the more and more I looked into it, the more I realized that the skill set that I had in entertainment transferred over into the cannabis space. And so then I just, I thought about it hard, and I was like, what I know for sure is that I've made millions of dollars for this company. That I know for sure. And are they going to pay me millions of dollars, or do I need to go out and build something in this other space where I think that it could be important, and that there is a lot of opportunity and there are lower barriers to entry. And I decided that if, no one was going to believe in me, I was going to believe in me. So I decided to jump off the cliff.
And here you are, everyone has their aha moment where they're like, this is my calling. I see a lane here. No one else sees it, but I got to go with it, or I'm going to regret this forever.
Yep.
Right. And you hit that moment, and Apothecary brands, very high-end cases and humidors and, we call paraphernalia for storing your cannabis for a working professional, working mother, father, just to have like a place to put your medicine.
Yep.
That isn't some random basket or a shoebox or whatever else. And
that's it. That's exactly it. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and we're going to show a picture of one of the cases right now. But I think that as it relates to, you've done some amazing collabs with this. This case is fantastic.
Thank you.
And it's brilliant. And obviously sales have been going up and up and up, and it's opened up other doors for you within the industry. But what is the most amazing kind of collabs that you've done with the Apothecary brands?
Oh, goodness.
Or custom jobs, I should say.
I mean, we've done a lot of fun things over the last, few years. Things that stick to mind are, the stuff we did with Tykel and Method Man was really exciting. We have a badass case that we just did with Ball Family Farms.
Yeah.
That is it is crisp as all get out. We back in the day, we did one with Club M that was a $25,000 case. So, it was $25,000 worth of product inside one of our cases, but we made it out of reclaimed French red wine barrels. It was just it was sick. And it's funny to be able to sit here and do this, because the first thing I heard when I wanted to start the company is investors telling me, you're nuts. There's never going to be a high-end or luxury customer in the cannabis space. So to sit here 5 years later and to have those collabs happen and the amount of stuff that we're working on now, it's nice to be able to look back and say, you're wrong.
well, that person wasn't thinking about it from the standpoint of there's going to be millions and millions of new users because of access and legalization. And a lot of those users are going to have families at home, and they have to hide their vape pens from their kids. And you need a combination on that. And as safe is too aggressive. Here's a beautiful case. It's mood enhancing.
Exactly. And
smells of rich oak barrels from French wine.
And that's kind of what we wanted, to have something beautiful that people can use to consume. It feels kind of suspect to have people over and you're going to bring your wine out of your wine fridge and your liquor off your bar, and cigars from this humidor, and then I'm going to go get my baggie from this shoebox that I keep under my bed and we're going to smoke together. Or can I bring out this beautiful case that's going to make sure that I have humidity control and all my tools are there, and it's more of an experience. I think that's what I want, in this space. And so that's what I mean.
What's the best way to order one?
Oh, go to our website, www.theapothecary.com. So 2 R's in Carey, and our whole line is there.
Awesome. Now, that opened up other doors for you within the industry.
Absolutely.
You weren't necessarily setting out to build multiple cannabis companies and cannabis brands, but jumping in 2013 where there were no rules, when it was the Wild Wild West, you met a lot of folks in the industry, and find yourself now trying to get a dispensary open, a social equity applicant, Josephine Billie's.
Yes.
And first off, what's the story behind the name? I have to know.
So the brand pays homage to Josephine Baker and Billie Holiday because, even though they were persecuted for their cannabis consumption, they used their art to fight against injustice. They, rejected the mainstream. They paved their own path, and more importantly, they held the door open for others that would come after them. And so I think that in legalization, we need to look back at these people who really paid an ultimate price, in the fight to legalization. And my dispensary is focused on women of color. And so that was, 2 icons that I could put out there. Women of color are 73% of women in Los Angeles self-identify as women of color. And, women of color also spent $1.1 trillion last year on consumer goods. And there is no dispensary in the country.
Underserved market.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. There's no dispensary looking at this angle at all. And we know what women want. 85% of household decisions are made by women. We know that we know what they want. They want authentic brands. They want us, to be able to tell them, why do they need this product? Why does it matter? Those sort of things. And so my job is to create education first, best in class, cannabis retail concept that kind of cuts through all that cannabis jargon. Because a lot of the women that I spoke to say, I'd love to use cannabis for my, period cramps, but I don't know what to use. I go in and I feel intimidated. They don't have anything that's clearly marked. I then went in and bought 100 milligrams.
The person's talking about sativa and indica behind the counter and don't know anything.
It means nothing. So I went in and I bought this 100 milligram chocolate bar, and then I ate it and I thought I was going to die, and now I'll never use cannabis again. Like, that's what ends up happening, and people don't have enough information. They don't know that you can use cannabis without having a euphoric high at all, or you can use a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1 or 4-to-1, CBD to THC mix, and have a different kind of experience. So I want to have a place where women feel comfortable in asking all those questions. We've got an anxiety section. We've got that PTSD section. We've got that insomnia section. Let's talk about pain management and look at it that way instead of, because at the end of the day, a 45-year-old mother is generally not coming in and saying, I want that bomb, OG XX Kush oil, because they don't know what the hell that is.
Obviously, women of color are a very underserved demographic, but any consumer, baby boomer, anything like that, is looking at the true wellness play. Do they go into a shop and there's a lack of education and it's super intimidating, you know? And my mother-in-law is from Illinois. We just took her to a shop and we try to coach her on what questions to ask, and the person knew nothing.
That's the most frustrating thing.
And I'm like, I basically answered all the questions, but I totally understand what you're saying there. Now, you've been, when the social equity application process started in LA, there were supposed to be twice as many social equity licenses as the legacy Prop 215 era licenses that they were grandfathering into the new regime. And at this point, as far as I'm concerned, there's zero.
We have no social equity retail licenses have been given out yet. We remain waiting. We started this process we applied in September of 2019, but the vast majority of us have, held property well before that, because we had to hold the property and sign the leases prior to even doing that application process. So this whole thing has been delay after delay after delay. And the idea of social equity is this idea that communities of color have been disproportionately disenfranchised by war on drugs and thus deserve some prioritization in licensing. And so what we're seeing right now is almost like the opposite of that prioritization, because what we see is these legacy operators get to continue to build their brands. They're continuing to sell cannabis.
Melrose opening up a ton of rec stores.
All of them left, right, and center, while every month Whitney sends money on a lease on a place where I can't sell nothing out of yet. And it just drains all the funding. And the biggest issue for people of color coming into the space is by far access to capital. And we're being drained of our capital. So it's a really hard situation.
And you've been waiting for the middle of 2019.
Middle of 2019.
Middle of 2019. And there was a recent partnership or investment from Momentum.
Yes, I'm super excited about that. So I was selected. I was one of the 10 companies that was selected to go into the
Matt Barnes is involved?
Yeah. And he's the one who told us that we got in. So Ease has this momentum accelerator, and the idea is to be able to support and encourage social equity businesses within this space. And they give us money, they give us access to advisors and mentors from all areas of the space. They assist us from within the Ease ecosystem. They're the biggest delivery service in California, and they've got long arms. And Matt Barnes came on for this year to really help fill out that program. And so I'm really excited. We just started, but it's a great shot in the arm. Obviously, everyone loves capital, but in this space, connections are everything. So having Ease behind you is an awesome opportunity.
Are you going to stick with the retail side of the plant touching world? Do are you I don't know. How much time do we have here? Right?
Exactly. I mean, a girl likes vertical integration. Who doesn't like vertical integration? So,
hey, that seems to be the best way to make money.
I'm just saying. So yeah, we're starting with the retail concept, but I tell people all the time, one dispensary is a bodega, and I want an empire. So I think that this, my job is to build the best flagship store that I can, that is doing the best job in education, that is really redefining the way that we talk to our customer base and the way that we deal with them. And then we go MSO and we start to spread out. And I also definitely want to go vertical. I want to see us being able to go all the way up and back down that supply chain. So I want to be able to do that distribution and manufacturing cultivation, but I also want that consumption lounge opportunities so I can build spaces within communities where they can consume together.
I mean, I think the consumption lounge post this whole COVID time is going to be huge. I mean, California hasn't done anything with it. Some cities were getting to it, but then obviously this happened, like West Hollywood and Palm Springs and other places. But there's going to be hundreds of licensed consumption lounges opened up in this country in the next 3 to 5 years.
There's gotta be. You've got all this legalization, but you don't have a place where people can consume together. And at the end of the day, cannabis is a social thing. And when we're talking about tourists coming in town and all that sort of thing, you want to have a place where you can actually consume and talk. And even the places that, there was the couple opened in WeHo or whatever, but I mean, they were turning tables. I want to have a place where people can,
club.
Exactly.
Like a club where people know your name.
That's all I'm saying.
Forced to get out of the seat so they can put someone else in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and you're having comfortable leather couches and really nice people around you versus being crowded up at a bar and trying to hear your friend talk.
That part,
right? Almost there's so much potential, and I think I'd love to, one day come into your consumption lounge and like, oh, that's Dave.
Exactly.
Here we are.
You're always welcome.
So, getting back to serious land for a second, how does the social equity license system get fixed? Does it have to be rebooted? Like, access to capital is huge, and these licenses they're 100 pages long. They require lawyers to decipher.
Not just, lawyers and a lot of them. And so I think fixing the program is not so simple. It happens on a lot of different levels. The first and most foremost is making sure that that you're listening to the people that you're trying to serve. These programs are new. The idea of social equity is new. And so we need to realize that when something's not working, we need to be able to pivot quickly to make, changes in order to not hurt the people that you're trying to help. So, we've been pushing the city to do that. And we have seen some of those changes. I think most notably when we're talking about some of the investor issues that we were seeing, a lot of predatory investors were coming into the space because at the end of the day, like we discussed, so
predatory in that they would say, here's some money, but we don't want you to do anything with the business. We want to run it for you.
Absolutely, because these are the only licenses out that are coming on right now. So it's what they do is say, great, Whitney, I've got my own concept, I've got this, I've got that. We're going to send you $5,000 a month and we're going to, run this little dispensary and we never have to see us again. $5,000 a month is not 51%. That's not ownership stake. That's not me being an owner. And so they had to change the language and say that, these social equity people, it's not the idea, because the investors were getting mad because they're making us strap these, social equity people on our backs or whatever. And it's like, what it is that you're not looking at the program correctly. You're not strapping these people to your back. You're partnering with them. They have to have something to put on the table, and you putting something on the table.
The fucking license.
They have access to the license. I've got a whole skill set. I'm like, I've been working in this space for a long time. You should be happy to partner with me. So I'm not being strapped on, I'm strapping you on my back.
Do you know everybody in LA Cannabis? You're like, you gotta know everybody.
I'm like, I know, it is a small world.
You want me to open up a shop? That thing will be bumping.
See, I'm like, and that's what, it's taken so long for them to be able to get that. And so they had to change the rules. They had to change the languaging or whatever, and also make sure that people had access to attorneys, because the other thing is that people are shoving contracts in front of people, especially if you need money and you don't have an attorney, and they're like, you don't really
someone gives you a 49-page document or 147-page document to look at. You
don't need an attorney. We have an attorney. That's not how any of this works, but I've heard that.
I mean, it sounds like a violation of rights of some kind.
Dude, right? It totally is. It pisses me off. So seeing those sort of things drives you crazy. It's that, and it's also being able to do what you promise, because a lot of the things that were supposed to happen in this space in tandem with the equity program. So we're talking about technical assistance, being able to offer people, because the hard things in this space, especially when you're talking about retail, comes into like the compliance and regulation space. So teaching people those processes so they could run their business more effectively, and then also access to capital. grant programs, loan programs. We're seeing loan programs in Oakland and grant programs there. And we have not put any of those things out into place. So you literally have the people who have at least access to capital, who grew up.
Or it's just a state-sanctioned SBA loan of some kind.
Anything,
right?
Because at the end, we can't go get a regular SBA loan. A bank's not going to give us anything. If and the numbers are pretty clear that communities of color don't have a heck of a lot of generational wealth to be
It's terrible that you're talking about folks that have the ability to secure a lease, and having to go years holding that burden. So you're facing paying that or financial ruin.
And that's exactly it. And I've seen too many people that I know and love and who have great business acumen in financial ruin because of it.
Yeah, it's brighter days are ahead. There's nowhere to go but forward. And
exactly.
I think the idea of just bringing awareness to what the reality, what the challenges are, the solutions are complex. Incredibly complex, and we haven't gotten it right because no one has done it, tried to do it before. But there's a lot more correct than it is now, and it's people exercising their voice is the only way to. The government always moves slow,
and that's what it is.
Especially LA. My God, and now they're mired in all these lawsuits, and now they're moving even slower.
And that's what it comes down to, but. I think that the work is important. That's why I continue to go to the Cannabis Regulatory Committee meetings and, want to talk at City Hall meetings and advocate for these programs because even in, the mired muck of all of it, it's still very, very important. Communities of color have paid a hard price. Even now, Black people and white people use cannabis at the same rates, but Black people are still 4 to 11 times more likely to get arrested for that same cannabis usage. So yes, I want to see more, more people of color within the space. And right now,
you need it to actually have the legal industry succeed. You need it to be inclusive. You need authentic entrepreneurial stories from the communities in which you want to participate in the legal market, or it's never going to work.
Period. It's not.
You're not going to heal. You're not going to even begin the healing process of years of the ramifications of the war on drugs.
Exactly. You've got to do some of that work, and you have to be mindful in the way that which we approach that, because we're still living in a world where people are opening dispensaries left, right, and center, but there's still a ton of people sitting in jail, for selling small amounts of cannabis, and being able to find that balance and make sure that we're being
get those people out and get them participating in the industry.
Exactly.
And having a path and like a actual some type of entity, government, social, corporate responsibility from the MSOs, whatever it is, to facilitate that. And if that happens, then it needs to happen. This industry exists.
And that's what that's why I got involved. I'm vice president of Supernova Women. We're an organization 501c3 that seeks to encourage women of color to become stakeholders in the cannabis space, and we do that through education, advocacy, and networking. And so we advocate a lot for social equity. We just started the first workforce development program up in Oakland, where we're taking people of color and training them in the cannabis space, letting them go through this and preparing them for jobs within this industry. Because at the end of the day, this space is booming. There is a ton of opportunities for jobs there. And, and we've seen the numbers are saying that companies that are diverse do better across the board. C-suites are diverse.
Any industry.
Exactly. It's a fact. And so we want to see that embraced. If nowhere else, it should be embraced in this space.
Well, we got to talk more about that organization. But I know there was supposed to be 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're great. This has been awesome. I was still got a little tail into the sunset there, still a little glow. You were great. And I know Whitney admitted she was touring a grow before coming here.
I was.
So quite a different vibe. But you were amazing. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.